Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. This is our 9-month check-in for our department budget analysis for the city of Acme. This is an annual rhythm we're in, where we take our actuals at the end of Q3, use them to make informed projections about the end of the year, and also use that data to make accurate forecasts for what the 2021 year should look like. So we will cover the key places where there were variances. We'll cover what the proposed budget is for 2021 and some rationale behind those things. So our current budget was 1.8 million, and where we're tracking at the end of Q3 is 1.355 million. So the key variances, as we can see just on this chart, we can see that the capital budget is pretty close to what its 12-month should be, indicating significant overage there. Operating budget is pretty close behind, but the personnel budget is significantly lower, or the actuals on these are significantly lower than what we had budgeted. So there is some rationale for that, some of which we will adjust in the coming budget, and some of which we need to dig into a little deeper. So the total forecasted variance is $7,421.99, so about 0.41%. So on its face, from a bottom line perspective, that means we're tracking fairly well. However, there is a difference between being lucky and good, and I think we're kind of riding that line here. So let me go into a little more detail there. Office supplies are already where, in the end of Q3, they are already consumed. The budget is already consumed for those for the year. The computer budget has been exceeded for the year due to some unexpected crashes, and about 2/3 of the workstation fleet needing to be refreshed. The infrastructure is also significantly over budget, because we had some network issues that also needed to be resolved. Those also have not been, we've replaced the components that need to be, but we do need to budget for more in the coming year. Vehicles, contracts, and miscellaneous are also under budget, so that helps, but our non-exempt full-time employee is also under budget due to some turnover. So that saved us as far as our projections, but we will need to restaff those roles, and we will need to we'll need to take the data we have here and kind of revision what 2021 is going to look like. So the adjustments needed to all categories in order to balance a 2021 budget will be expressed on the subsequent slides. So the new proposed budget is 1.84 million. So there is a $40,000 increase needed, and majority of that is coming from personnel. The reason for that is we had significant turnover last year, which allowed our numbers to come in a bit lower, but those roles still need to be restaffed. There are no roles that can be effectively consolidated, so we'll need to restaff those. And for cost of living increase, we do need to address that and make sure that we're doing right by our employees. If we divide it out with the 13 non-salaried full-time employees, if we divide out what was in the budget at $450,000 by 13, that shows the full-time employees at about $34,615 per year. And granted, there are probably some variances there, but the current budget and the turnover could be attributed to partially to wage, because 34,000 is barely at the national average for what's needed for a living wage. So in addition to the cost of living increases that we will need to do for our salaried FTEs, I am proposing that we should also increase, in addition to the cost of living. So we're adding about 6% to the non-exempt FTE in an effort to stay more competitive in the market and to retain the talent that we already have. Those shortfalls will be, or those overages will be offset by reductions in operating and capital expenditure. So the total variance from fiscal year 2020 will be about $40,000. So it'll be an increase of about 2.26%. Majority of that is personnel, the 3% increase for cost of living for the exempt full-time employees, and the 6% increase for non-exempt full-time employees, which is for cost of living and retention of existing talent. On the operational expenditure, or the OPEX side of the house, we are increasing the utilities, office supplies, and infrastructure budget to align with the 2020 actuals. By taking that information at the Q3 mark, assuming that on the accounting side we are amortizing these expenses throughout the year. So taking those expenses and extrapolating them out to what they would be on a monthly basis, and then factoring that in for the entire year, we have increased those line items to make sure that we are within that budget. However, we have been able to make some decreases as well. We've decreased the contracts to align with 2020 actuals. We've also decreased the vehicle expense by 50% because we will not need as many new vehicles this year. But that comes with a commensurate increase in the vehicle maintenance fund to make sure that we can repair and maintain the existing fleet. There is a capital increase on the computer budget as well, because only 2/3 of the fleet was refreshed last year. So we will need to, we'll still need to factor that in. So this budget is I should mention this budget is a relatively conservative budget. We're trying to keep it as balanced as possible. And the percentages, as we can see here, kind of a breakdown between our CapEx, our OpEx, and our personnel. Personnel labor is always the #1 controllable and is usually the largest cost in an annual budget. So in the grand scheme of things, we've increased the personnel budget only by about 2% and had a commensurate decrease in the capital budget. Maintaining the operational budget, I mean, a slight increase, but still at the same percentage point. Trying our best to keep that balanced. In the event that we are not able to make the funds for this forecasted budget with the $40,000 increase, there are some options that we have. We could reduce the vehicle spend, decrease, buy one less vehicle. That would give us some wiggle room. We could also, I've left the other expenses at the same line item, just kind of a flat comp year over year, knowing that it was not used in the previous year, not used to its entirety. So that is another place where we can offset any variances or overages if we need to. But this budget is as close to balanced as it could be, given that we need to retain our staff. We need to make sure that we are providing a working wage for them, and we need to make sure that we're maintaining our infrastructure and our computer systems, our vehicles, the things that we use to execute our daily work. As if we do not have the ability to maintain those, if we don't budget in to maintain those, we have additional lost time and lost productivity from the workforce. And while that is difficult to quantify, it will make its way to the bottom line. So that is kind of our summary. The reasons for the graphs that I used, like on this particular slide, I used a pie chart deliberately because in explaining where the increases were and the necessity for those increases, I wanted to show the percentage of the whole. So in the grand scheme of things, it shows that our proportions are still fairly consistent. with a slight increase in personnel and a slight decrease in capital expenditure. On the first two slides, where we were reviewing the actual budgets, it was important for us to see where we were and where that related to our forecast. So the bar charts, the 3D bar charts there seem to be the best way for me to express that data. So thank you guys very much. Thank you everyone, gentlemen and ladies. At this point, we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A, and I am always available for any questions or further discussion at droberts@cityofacme.gov. So please review. Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to a successful and profitable 2021. Thank you.